The Courageous Coaching Podcast is hosted by Sophia Antoine, a certified life coach supporting women in their efforts to improve their self-esteem. Today we're talking about life, relationships, and everything in between. Take it away, Sophia.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Courageous Coaching Podcast. My name is Sophia Antoine, and I'm a certified life and relationship coach. This day, I have with me the wonderful, awesome, stupendous, and I know I say that a lot, but all of the women who are here are stupendous. But I have Shaniqua Johnson with us. She is a registered nurse, a health and a life coach, a motivational speaker, an author, as well as an entrepreneur. She is doing it all, ladies. So instead of listening to me gab about her, I am going to let her introduce herself because she can tell you better than I can. So welcome this morning. It is a pleasure to have you on the Courageous Coaching Podcast. So take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sophia. It is a pleasure. It is an honor to be here with you on today. I am super excited to be here to talk to all of these courageous women who are taking a step to live better lives. So as you mentioned, I am Shaniqua Johnson. I am a registered nurse. And where my focus is in my business, A Better You, where I'm trying my very, very best to help women understand their truest potential, to help them live their best lives mentally, physically, and spiritually. Because what I have found, if you don't have balance in all three of those areas, you are going to struggle. There is going to be some area of lack in your life. And I don't think any of us have been born to live in lack. We have been born with a purpose to live abundant, fulfilling lives. So it is just really my life's dream, just to help women realize how great we truly are.
Wow, that's amazing. Just hearing you say that, it gives me chills because we, for lack of a better word, we have the same mission. We can bounce off of each other and we can help each other. But I truly love the health aspect, the mental health aspect, because we are sort of conditioned to think that talking about mental health is a bad thing. Mm-hmm. Like if you have a bad day, you can't talk about it. Or even say on social media, you can't post anything negative for fear of the backlash. So focusing on mental health in women, what have you seen? What do you see that needs to be enhanced? What needs to be addressed? Just talk about it.
What needs to be enhanced? Well, first of all, I believe women need to be walking in their truth. It is okay to walk in your truth. That's where you're going to find healing. If you're covering things up, if you're hiding things, if you're only telling half the story, that's where the enemy has a chance to come in and to start playing these mind games, these mental games with you. But when you are an open book, when it's like this is full disclosure, then no one has an arrow to come at you with. If you've already put it out there and you say, hey, this is my story, this is my truth, and now it's time for you to find your healing in it. And oftentimes I think a lot of we bundle stuff up because we want to have this image of being this strong, confident woman. But you don't think strong, confident women have days where we feel like we don't have it all together, or we feel like we need somebody to rub our shoulders and say it's going to be okay? Like we all go through it, even the very, very strong. So I just say, listen, it's time that we all just start walking in our truth. No, we don't have to disclose everything to everybody. Like you don't have to get on social media and say, I'm having trouble paying my rent. This is what's going on. No, you don't have to disclose it on that level, but you've got to be honest with yourself. So that's where I want women to start. I want women to start being honest at the very, very least with themselves.
Right.
To say, hey, look, this is what happened to me. These are my struggles. These are my areas of weakness, because it's in our areas of weakness where we find our inner strength. And I am a living testimony to that. Like, I can never come up on stages and on platforms and tell people anything that I have not gone through. And unfortunately in life, unfortunately, but fortunately, I've had to go through some stuff.
Right.
I've had to go through some stuff, and I had to be able to walk in my truth. Do I struggle in certain areas? Oh, absolutely, because we all do. Nobody here is perfect. So we have to just be willing to say, you know what? I'm going to stand in my truth. And in my areas of weakness, I'm going to celebrate those weaknesses, because that is where I am going to find my strength. That is where I'm going to find my true beauty. And once you're able to hold your head up high, there ain't nothing, nobody, nowhere can say to you to bring you down. Your truth is your truth. And once you're walking in that, you're untouchable. You're untouchable. And that's where we grow. That's where we grow.
Yeah, I completely agree. Just acknowledging it, even if it's only to yourself.
That's right.
Just saying the words, or even if you can't bring yourself to say it, write it.
Right. Yes.
So
yes.
To me, that's amazing. But let me ask you this. You said walk in your truth. And that kind of brings me to the whole thing that some people are taught when they're growing up: what happens in this house stays in this house.
Mm-hmm.
That is so detrimental to people, because they're conditioned to think they can never tell or disclose the things that have happened to them, especially to a mental health professional or even to a coach like we are. So what do you say to someone who's been taught that? Meet them where they are at the very beginning. They are listening to this podcast. What would you say to encourage them, to let them know it's safe to seek out someone to speak to professionally? Not someone that's your friend, or you think that's your friend, that's going to go back and tell it, but an actual professional.
Yes. It is very important to speak to a mental health specialist. And you can start with your doctor. Not everybody has a therapist. Not everybody has, and they have that stigma in society to say, oh my God, if you talk to a therapist, what's wrong with you? You crazy? What's wrong with you?
Right.
But I say at least start the conversation with your primary care physician. To say, hey, listen, this is what I'm going through. In fact, I actually did the very same thing. That's where I had to start, because I knew that there was something going on with me. I did not like the way I was feeling. I felt as though I was spiraling out of control. And I knew that in order for me to survive, I had to come to some type of level where I was going to be able to get help. So I started out with just bringing up the discussion to my GYN doctor. Okay. So I went to the GYN doctor and I just said, listen, I gotta be honest with you. I haven't been feeling good lately. And she was like, well, tell me more. What do you mean by when you say that? And that was like me shedding. I was starting to shed. So I began to tell her, what was actually going on with me, how I was feeling. And she says, okay, let me refer you to somebody. Okay. Now, when I got referred to a doctor, they started, talking to me and they wanted, put me on medications, and the medications didn't do well with me, things of that nature. And I said, okay, wait a minute. Maybe this is not quite the route that I need to take. I don't necessarily believe that I needed medications, at least not at that point. But I said, you know what? I do need to talk about this, and I need to get into an area where I can openly talk about this without any fear of any type of repercussions, without any, fear that somebody was, going to put it on social media or anything. So I ended up going to another doctor, and he was actually a therapist. And what he taught me, and it's funny because I am a registered nurse, so you would think, oh, you should know everything you need to know about health. But there was one beautiful thing that he taught me. He taught me to analyze my dreams.
Wow.
And I found that my dreams were my subconscious feelings of what was going on in my life playing out. So it made me become more aware of my inner self. So I took that little bit that he gave me and I stretched it out into something huge.
Right.
And it was so very therapeutic for me. And what I began to do was to write down my dreams. And from writing down my dreams, I also began to write down how I was feeling. So I started that road to journaling. And when I would even read back what I had written on a sheet of paper, it was therapeutic for me. So I would tell people, okay, you got to start somewhere. And I would suggest going to your doctor and starting the conversation. But at the very least, as you mentioned earlier, Sophia, start writing it down. Because when you write it down, that's you opening up the wounds. In fact, one of my clients, I had her begin her journaling process, and it was painful for her. It was painful. But I told her, you don't have to dredge everything up all in one sitting.
Right.
You take it in little doses. You write out one little thing, and then you sit in it.
Yep.
You sit in a chair and you take those few sentences that you wrote down, that hurt that you started tapping into the surface. You write that down, and then you don't write anymore. And then you sit in it. You read it back. You reflect in it. And now you start the healing process and say, okay, how can I move on from this point? Not everything. You don't write everything. This person said that. No, you just start somewhere.
Right.
And once you open the door, you've got to be willing to feel. You've got to be willing to feel it. And it doesn't always feel comfortable.
Nope.
But you've got to be positioned in a place where, one, you've got somebody there to help you, somebody that's going to support you through this feeling process. Because if you get all up in your feelings, you know, your feelings can be a horrible thing.
Yes.
But if you've got somebody there, your therapist, your coach, your doctor, somebody that can help you process what it is you're feeling, then you're able to get through it. So I would tell her, breathe through it, honey. I know this is not comfortable, but breathe through it. Liken to when you're in labor and you've got your Lamaze coach, or you've got somebody in there saying, okay, well, just breathe, bear down and breathe through it. So that is what we worked on. And it was a little bit at a time. And with each sitting, when she sat down and she understood, and she would come to me and she said, Shaniqua, you know what? That wasn't my fault. And I said, do you forgive yourself?
Wow.
She said, I forgive myself because it was not my fault. And I said, okay, write down the next one. And she was like, oh my God, my head is spinning from the last one. And I said, okay, breathe through it.
Right.
But then we've got to move on. And that's where you start the healing.
Awesome.
You've got to get down to the surface. You've got to go down to the root of what is causing you the hurt, what is causing you the pain, what is causing you not to sleep at night. And these issues can manifest themselves into physical symptoms. So if you're struggling with migraines and you're struggling with high blood pressure, it could be due to these mental issues that you are just covering up, and you're putting a smile on your face, and you're putting your lipstick on and your foundation, and you're going about into the world. No, there has to come a time where you wash your face, you wash all of that facade off, and you look at who you truly are and what is truly going on with you. No, it's not an easy process. Nobody promises that this is going to be easy. But is it necessary? Absolutely. If you want to soar in life, honey, you got to take the weave out. You got to take the makeup off. You got to take the false eyelashes off. You got to get rid of all of that in order to be able to love the true you.
Absolutely. That is beautiful. Thank you. You said everything that needed to be said.
Honey.
Girl, you make me want to pull off some stuff and just ugly